Hi, welcome to the Python Foundations course. This course has been designed for anyone with or without prior programming experience. You don't need to actually know coding to get started with Python. If you already have learned any programming language like C, C++ or Java, perhaps in your high school or in college, it will be easy for you. But even if you're completely new to programming, do not worry. Python is a very beginner-friendly language that is really easy and quick to learn. It has various applications spread through multiple domains, whether it is in artificial intelligence, data science, software development, gaming, or even education. One of the great things about Python is that whether they are small scale or large scale applications, they are really easy to code. It is a very popular and powerful language. Most companies and startups that use programming pick Python as one of their preferred languages. There is no fixed timeline or course duration that you need to consider for finishing this course. This is self-paced. You can take it slow and watch it at your own comfort. You can also rewatch the videos again and again in case any particular portion is not clear or if you are having any difficulties in understanding a particular topic. Ideally, it should take you about 25 hours, but it may also take longer than that, or you might even finish it sooner. How long you take depends upon your learning speed. Let's have a brief review of the content and see what we are dealing with through this course. Once again, even if you are a complete beginner, you can still follow through the content without any difficulties. First, we will look at a brief intro about Python, its features, advantages, applications, etc. I'll also guide you through installing Python and tell you about the various ways in which it can be executed. You can choose whichever is comfortable for you to do the exercises. Then we will learn about the various data structures or data types like integers, strings, lists, dictionaries, tuples and sets, and various operations involving them. After that, I will introduce you to conditional statements and loops followed by functions. Then we have object-oriented programming principles involving classes. It is very important to understand functions and classes since most applications are designed by implementing them. Sometimes there may be errors that arise during runtime and exception handling takes care of the problem. Then we learn about what modules are and explore some of the most commonly used modules. So basically, this course contains 3 parts. The first part introduces the students to the basic concepts needed to build a Python program. The second portion focuses on the core methodologies and design principles needed to expand their programs. The third part lets them apply these concepts to code real-time applications. This is all about the core concepts needed to master the basics of Python programming language. Till this point, we would have been writing chunks or small portions of code part by part to gain an understanding of the concepts, but we will spend the later part of the course developing complete solutions for tasks from the start to finish on most commonly used applications. There are a lot of examples throughout this course as and when we deal with new topics so that you can understand it and then and there on how to apply those concepts. Also, along with those examples, there are also practice questions for every topic to let you use what you have learned. There will be no need to by heart any code, you only need to remember the right syntax. If you follow through the examples and practice questions, you will be able to program naturally as you progress along the course. So that's about the curriculum. Let's start learning Python. In this video, we will see about a brief introduction about Python, its advantages over other programming languages, and where all it is being used. Python was designed by Guido van Rossum in 1991. So as you can see, the language has existed nearly for about 30 years now, but only in the last decade have programmers realized its potential and started using it for various simple and complex tasks. It is a general purpose programming language, meaning it is not restricted to any particular domain. It can be used for any kind of application. One of the striking features of Python is that it is open source. Its source code is free to use and share with others. You don't need to pay for it. In terms of a processor being able to understand and execute a code, we can broadly classify programming languages into low-level, mid-level or high-level programming languages. A low-level language is one that a processor can understand easily, however, humans cannot. They are also called assembly languages or machine languages. Vice versa, a high-level language is one that humans can understand with ease, but it is difficult for a machine to understand. Python, SQL, JavaScript are common examples of high-level languages. When it comes to executing a code, we have a compiler and an interpreter. A compiler converts human-readable code into machine code and checks for errors before running it. However, an interpreter runs the code directly and only checks for errors during runtime. As such, Python is an interpreted language. First, the code is run, and if there are any errors other than syntax errors, we only encounter them during runtime. Syntax is the set of rules by which a language is to be coded. Now let's see some of the reasons why Python is so popular. As I have told in the previous video, it is very easy to learn Python. It is also highly readable, meaning that one can understand the program without much difficulties if they read the code. In fact, when looking at Python code, it mostly resembles English. One can get what it does even if they don't know programming. This is also a key reason why beginners pick Python when learning a new language. When compared to other languages, Python only takes a few lines of code. If you are writing some 200 or 300 lines in C++ or Java, you can probably finish the same task in Python in less than 50 lines. This saves a lot of time and effort for a developer, thus increasing his or her productivity. Also, with less lines of code, it is easy to debug in case of any errors in the program. Python is highly portable. That means the code can be used in different systems and environments without making any explicit changes to it. You can link a Python code to other programming languages too, like C or Java, making integration with other languages easy. There is a vast amount of support libraries for Python. For most of the tasks, we already have libraries within built functions that can be directly used instead of us having to code the entire process from scratch, making it very easy and simple to code. Since Python is open source and has all these advantages, there are developers throughout the world who continuously support new learners and make regular improvements to it. Python also supports multiple programming paradigms. We have many paradigms or designs of coding such as procedural, functional, object-oriented, etc. We will look into them in the later part of the course. These are some of the important reasons why coders prefer Python over other languages. Let me demonstrate how a Python code compares with other programming languages. For example, this is a C++ program that takes some text as input, reverses it, and displays the output. As you can see, it takes about 15 to 20 lines of code to perform this task in C++. Can you guess how many lines it would take to do the same task in Python? Around 15? Or 10? Or about 5? The answer is that it only takes 2 lines. Can't believe it? Let me show you. This window is called the Python IDLE or idle. I am going to type out the code here and show it to you. Say A equal to input, enter a sample string. Anything in Python that has these round brackets is a function. This input is a function that gets an input from the user and stores it into this variable A. Whatever text you type it out within these brackets is displayed to the user while getting the input. Now if I press enter, it asks for the input, and let me give hello world as the sample string. Now the program has obtained a text as an input from me. If we need to check the value, type A and press enter. You can see the value that is stored in A. Now to reverse the string, you don't need to understand what this notation means right now. You will learn about this while I cover lists. For now, just see the code and the result. And here we go. Here we have the string that is reversed. If you want it to be even more clear, you can just type plus. So plus is called the concatenation operator that combines two or more strings. And you can just give out the code directly here. So you see this reverse string, the reverse string is, and along with the output. So this didn't involve much work at all, right? Can you relate this with the advantages I told you in the previous video? We only had two simple lines to type. So it is easy to code. It was readable, right? With less lines to code. It saves time and increases productivity. Also, there wasn't much to correct in case we made any mistake, so it is easy to debug too. In case you have never used Python before, I hope this has given you some idea of the significance of Python. We saw that Python is a general purpose language, so it has its uses in a lot of fields. Following are some of the major domains where it finds its application. Python simplifies scientific programming through its libraries. We have Selenium for web automation and Appium for mobile automation, both of which can be easily implemented in Python. For those who program in the field of AI or artificial intelligence, this language is their favorite choice. It provides a strong backend for web development and also incorporates the front end without difficulties. Many popular games and animations use a large amount of Python code. Whether it is software development or database or network programming or even hacking, everything is simplified with Python. Some of you may have heard about Raspberry Pi. It is a small computer that can do many powerful tasks involving hardwares. In fact, Raspberry Pi uses Python as its educational language. All this is possible because of a huge collection of packages that pretty much have most of the required functionalities that perform the desired task. I will introduce you to some of the predominantly used Python frameworks and packages. If you are interested in any of these fields, you can choose anyone from this list and start learning once you finish this course. Frameworks are like skeletons over which you can build your product. You already have the required implementations programmed in them. You can actually think of frameworks like building blocks that you need to properly assemble or arrange to develop the application. For web development, we have Django and Flask. There are some other frameworks too, like Pyramid, Bottle, CherryPy, Web2Py, TurboGears, etc. But these two are highly used for backend development in web applications. Flask is used for small-scale web apps, while Django is used for large-scale web apps. There is no need for one to learn both. Of course, it is better if you learn both so that depending upon your particular requirement, you can choose the desired framework. But even if you learn one, you have to learn it thoroughly for better opportunities. Then we have the packages NumPy for numerical calculations and analysis, then Pandas for data processing, SciPy for scientific computing, and Matplotlib for plotting graphs. So these are some of the common packages that are used for scientific programming and data processing. Then be it SQL or NoSQL databases like MongoDB, database programming can also be implemented in Python. We have SQL Alchemy, MySQLDB, SQLite 3. These are used for SQL, and PyMongo for MongoDB. If you need to develop desktop apps involving the use of GUI or what you call as graphical user interfaces, you can do it using tkinter or Kiwi or WXPython. For machine learning, you can choose from TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras or Scikit-learn. Of course, this is not the entire list of packages. There are alternatives for each domain, but these are what are most commonly used in the industry. Now here is a list of well-known companies that use Python. So Google uses Python in its web search systems, in its machine learning research, and they also use it in a lot of their engineering processes. Amazon and Netflix use Python in their recommendation systems. And very popular websites like YouTube, Dropbox, Reddit, Yahoo Groups, and Quora are all written in Python. NASA heavily uses Python for its numeric and scientific computing. And companies like IBM, HP, Intel use Python for their hardware testing. And many of you may have used BitTorrent. It was initially coded in Python actually. And then Instagram backend is completely coded in Django framework, which we saw earlier. And obviously this is not the entire list of companies using Python. This is just only a fraction of the list of places where Python is heavily used. If you are a good Python programmer, you are guaranteed to land better jobs in startups and other companies. If we look at Python, there are two major versions that are currently used. One is Python 2, where the latest version is Python 2.7.15, and then we have Python 3, where the latest version is 3.7.1. This is according to December 2018. The support for Python 2 has stopped and no further improvement or version upgrade is possible, but many companies have already used Python 2 in their systems and are continuing with it, so there is still usage for it. As far as the basics are concerned, there are no major differences between the two. There are some implementation changes, but we are not going to go into the details of it. In this course, we will be using Python 3. In the next set of videos, I will show you how to install Python and demonstrate the various ways in which a Python program can be executed.